All right, we live, people. What's going on? We are live in the car. We just walked from the stadium. We were at the game, Florida Ole Miss.
We're like a 15-minute walk from the place that you just watched that unbelievable win. Look, man, go ahead, Dylan.
I mean, dude, this team. I mean, we expected them to do well and do good, and thought it'd be a ball game. I thought Ole Miss would pull away in the fourth quarter. This defense, man. I mean, for everybody, everybody's gonna talk about Lagway and the offense. This defense, to hold this team to a field goal in the second half, unreal, absolutely unreal,
unbelievable. And look, full disclosure for everybody, we needed to get as far away as we could to try to have good service, because initially our plan was we probably would have gone home, done the podcast, or done it tomorrow morning. But we're sitting there in the swamp, and we see this win, and we're like, man, we got to go live right after the game. So apologies if we Netflix you guys a little bit. That's not our intentions, but we think we should be all right. Dylan, last week felt like a program-changing win against LSU. This week made LSU just feel like a big win.
Oh.
And now this feels like the program-changing win. Yeah. Am I correct in that?
It feels like last week was the win to get some recruits to go to your team. Now it's like, okay, now we're building something. It's not – that wasn't just a one and done. That wasn't just – we had a good week of practice and we had a good game plan. This is more of, this is our team. This is going to be our team moving forward. I mean, next week you got Florida State, which feels like, don't like to put yourself too far ahead, but everything's leaning Florida to win by many, many points. And we all said at the beginning of the year, if you're 7-5 at the end of the year, it's a pretty good season. And it didn't look like that for the first month. Didn't look like it after the Tennessee game. But now you sit here and, I don't know how many recruits were at the game. I don't know. I know there was a lot. Somebody showed me on Twitter from On 3. I forget his name.
Will Fong, Steve Will Fong.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he said he's probably going to commit to Florida. And, you're going to see a lot of these guys because now Florida's got the momentum. Florida State's going to pick up their big emotional win, the second emotional win against Charleston Southern. And in state, you're going to have Miami. But around here, man, Florida's got all the momentum. And, the only competition is going to be within the conference.
And look, man, we talked about this on the way down here. We talked about this in the game. We talked about this on the way out of the stadium. What DJ Lagway has brought to this program already, and what it seems like he's going to continue to bring this program. I mean, this can be one of the most influential players in the Florida program ever since we're literally probably talking like Tebow.
Yeah,
he starts having that.
Nobody's ever going to top Tebow.
No, of course not. I'm not saying that.
But he's up there with him.
I'm saying timeline wise, like when you look at the fact that Billy Napier in this program was dead after Texas A&M. I mean, I don't think you and I did podcasts back then. I don't know that I've ever been that low on this program since I've been alive.
No.
I'm 26 years old. I don't think I've ever been that low on the Gators and that dead in the dumps of where they were headed. And it's not just Lagway. Obviously, Jaden Ball's come in, provided a great spark. Shout out Montrell Johnson today, getting in the game, playing a great game, and the defense, guys in the defense have played really well. But DJ Lagway kind of personifies everybody. Kind of like he's sort of the symbolic figure of all of that. And then you just look at him himself as a player. I mean, this dude's right arm was blessed by the Lord himself, yeah. Dylan. We talk about it every week. It's unbelievable. And we saw in that first half something that I hadn't quite seen out of him yet. That first half, man, he was doing some Pat Mahomes type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sort of he wasn't really opening up the gate and running still because of the hamstring, but he was making dudes miss in the pocket, little sidestep here, little sidestep there, sort of get the defense moving one way, throw it back the other way. That throw.
The 3rd and 2 to Badger is the one you're talking
about. That throw underneath the
that
Badger was unbelievable. I'm looking at it. I'm saying, man, like Lagway's going to get crushed for like a 1-yard gain. Hopefully he doesn't fumble, hopefully whatever. And then just boop, here's the ball to Elijah Badger, getting all the way down the field. A couple plays later in the end zone. I mean, unbelievable.
Are you now fully on board on the Montrell Johnson fan club? Are you on that bandwagon yet? Man, I wish people could see on that drive where he scores a touchdown. My boy Graham here, he's like, why is Montrell in the game? Why is Johnson in the game? We need to put ball back there. I agree. But then he scores a touchdown. He goes, All right, we're good. We're good. We're on
said,
7, baby. We're on 7.
When the Gators lined up with Montreal and Wildcat, I was like, I think I looked at Dylan and I said, Billy Napier's about to call one of the dumbest plays he's ever called, and that's saying a lot. And then they score a touchdown, and I say, well, we're good.
Yeah,
I'm the idiot. But look, man, like, in all seriousness, moving forward, I hate to say it, but you were mentioning this when we were walking down here back to the car. I hate to say it with some of the guys because they've been really good Gators and whatnot, but some of the injuries to the older guys that have allowed some of these younger guys to get in and make plays has arguably been the best thing to happen to the Gators in years.
Yeah. Another thing, too, I know, not trying to go off of that. Dude, Gates didn't play the whole game.
Aaron Gates got hurt on literally the second play of the game, and he'd been one of the best players.
Yeah.
He'd been, and Bryce Thornton had a good game today. He had the interception late in the end zone, and Dijon Johnson. They were trying Dijon all game and could not get him. And
Miles Graham was another guy that stepped up. Pop Power was out.
I mean,
these are all dudes that are all freshmen and sophomore, and that all have the intentions from what it looks like right now to be playing for the team next year, which is huge.
And you look at something else I want to talk about, Dylan, is that defensive line. Early in the game, when Ole Miss started moving the ball a little bit, Dart was having 3 seconds, 4 seconds, pretty clean pocket to throw the ball here, there, and he was at the controls and he was cooking pretty well. Jackson Dart was. As the game rolled on, and in that second half, Sapp, Banks, those boys were starting to live in the backfield just like they did against LSU. And they couldn't quite get to Jackson Dart quite as much as Nussmeier because Jackson Dart's a good player. He's mobile, and he was able to get out of the pocket and get some runs. But when they started really living in the backfield, and they did get a couple of key sacks, you could tell, I think that was where the game mentally really flipped for Ole Miss. I think you could tell before that, even though Florida was competing, Florida scoring, they're doing what they need to do. When they started getting in that backfield in the second half and getting Dart on the ground a couple of times, I think you could start to tell that Ole Miss was like, man, we might be in some trouble. We might be in some trouble. We can't get down the field on these boys like we thought we'd be able to, and this might be bad. So I think it was just so impressive for what they were able to do, and they were able to continue to have such an impressive performance. There's a really drunk dude that's just walking past us.
I thought he was about to get in the car. I was about to see if your doors were locked.
Yeah,
my dog. I mean, you got a shoulder lean, and this dude's got a lean, bro.
There's literally a hammered guy just walked past our car. But anyways,
all right, we're good.
Dylan, that defensive line, like, do you agree with me that when that defensive line started to get Dart on the ground a couple times in that second half, you could tell Ole Miss started to be a little bit flustered?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first half, Dart pretty much did. He just sat back there the entire game and just did what he wanted and had time to pick apart the defense. I mean, granted, to Florida's defense, they ran a too high safety look, and they wanted to keep everything in front of them. That's why they gave up so many hitches. To go off what you were saying, Banks, 2.5 sacks, Sapp, sack and a half. So this team had 4 sacks tonight, or this afternoon. Ole Miss, how many sacks do they have? 3 sacks. And we all agree that Ole Miss's lines of scrimmage are clearly better than Florida's. And yet again, this is the best defensive line that Florida's faced all year. Not even a comparison.
And it's the best defensive line that basically any team in the country would face if they played them.
And again, 3 guys within the top 20 in the country, 2 guys in the top 10. I think you got Princely and you got Clayton, both with like 10 sacks apiece going into this game. And Princely was really a non-factor for the most part. I mean, he made a couple plays, but he wasn't a game wrecker, and that's something that you can't have on the offense.
There was not one time in the game that I looked over at you and I said, Princely is wrecking this game.
Yeah,
it never crossed my mind, and it was weird because like early in the second half, early in the third quarter, Florida had that debacle of a drive coming out of halftime. They got blown. I mean, that was a disgusting drive to watch. Lagway got destroyed the first play, and they just couldn't go anywhere after that. I felt like, because I want to say Ole Miss had a decent drive after that. I think we stalled them, but they were moving the ball, I'm pretty sure. And at that point in the game, I felt like Ole Miss's lines of scrimmage on both sides were starting to work a little bit, and they were starting to push Florida around. They were starting to really get some traction on the offensive line. They were pushing people backwards, letting their guys run the ball a little bit better. And then I thought that defensive line was starting to really live in Florida's backfield, and I thought we might be in trouble. This might be bad. And they kept fighting, man. They kept fighting. This defense, even in that time frame, kept them out of the end zone. Did what they needed to do. Did not let Ole Miss's offense really take advantage of that. Never really pull ahead at all. And then on the offense, a couple of bad drives in the early in the first half, like I was saying. But then we talked about it after we saw it. It was on our side of the field, and we were at the game. That seam route down the field, or I should say skinny post to Chim DK.
Mm-hmm.
That play action down the field, that changed the game. That was early fourth quarter, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
That was the play, back to Ole Miss being flustered, that was the play where you started to feel it in the stadium, like, okay, this isn't just the Gators playing a little bit above their skis. This isn't just the swamp. This isn't just Ole Miss leaving points on the board, not playing well. This is Florida can go win this football game. This is Florida can take control and go win. And that was unbelievably encouraging.
I even go before that. Florida gets the ball coming out of the second half, 3 and out. And then you punt, then Ole Miss muffs it. You get the ball at the 40, and you're only able to get a field goal. And that felt like at that moment, like this is a key pivotal moment in the game where you got to score a touchdown. And then it doesn't happen. Then Ole Miss gets the ball, and they turn the ball over on downs. 13-play, 65-yard drive. And then it kind of went back and forth. Ole Miss gets a field goal, so then you go to the fourth quarter tied, and then that happens. I mean, this defense, time and time again, you talk about bend, don't break. I mean, the amount of carries that big boy had, that defensive line, and the Wildcat forcing Ole Miss to miss a field goal. Yeah, Ole Miss had missed opportunities, but, man, I mean, every time they didn't give up the big play, which was the biggest concern for this defense coming into today. I mean, it wasn't but, 2 weeks ago when Texas had all those big plays, and you're like, well, there's one team left on schedule that can do that, it's Ole Miss. And yeah, there was one point in the game where, it was on our end zone. What happened? Was it turnover on downs? What was the final result? I can't remember. Where they threw the ball, back shoulder, dude dropped it for the touchdown.
Yeah. On Dijon, they tried to score on Dijon.
Yeah, and then they had another big play that could have happened, and it didn't happen. There was 3 plays where Ole Miss shot themselves in the foot that were all right there within that play where he missed that back shoulder throw, and Florida capitalized on it, man. I mean, you need some little bit of help every now and then, and Florida got it. And now we're looking at Florida State next week. You're probably going to finish season 7-5. You're going to play in a bowl game somewhere in the state, and man, a lot of momentum is heading your way. A lot of momentum,
and we'll have to see as the week goes on and the week plays out a little bit. But recruiting, you hit on it a minute ago, but man, you just had 2 electric, seismic wins back to back toward the end of the season with a 5-star freshman quarterback doing his thing on the field with key recruits watching both times and the swamp rocking both times. Yeah,
it wasn't. I mean, we've been to a lot of games. It was about as electric as it could be for a noon game.
We said one of the first things Dylan and I said as they're walking out of the stadium, and Dylan and I have been to a bunch of Gator games together, so this is a big sample size. That's the best noon game we've ever been to in the swamp in terms of electricity, atmosphere. Man, Dylan, that second half, the swamp, it felt like a 3:30 game.
Yeah.
The first half didn't, because noon is weird. We all know this. Nobody likes noon games. No one home games. No one wants noon games. So the first half, you kind of had to just accept it, get over it. By the time that second half started rolling, and Wall Back Down was playing, and We Are the Boys was playing, man, it felt like a 3:30 kick. Like, it felt electric. You would have had no idea that it was only like 2:30 in the afternoon at that point.
Sorry, I'm looking up. I'm getting Princely updates as we go. So, for the ones that haven't seen it, I'm just checking Twitter. So, yesterday he pulls up on campus.
You're talking about Princely.
Yeah, Princely for Ole Miss, who used to play in Florida. He pulls up to the game wearing a ski mask. Or yesterday gets to campus wearing a ski mask for, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It's, as the kids would say, they're standing on business, or I don't know, slime season, whatever. I don't even know what that means, but they just say it all the time. Do you know what that means? Are you a kid?
What? No, go ahead.
Then I saw at the end of the game, he left, went back to the locker room with 17 seconds left, and then he was being escorted by police officers. I guess he was going back to the bus, and Gator fans were saying something. He almost swung on him, and everybody, all the cops jumped on Princely. I mean, look, man, you make these decisions, and you do what you want to do, but it feels good when a guy leaves your program and you get the better of him. And it's one of your better guys. I mean, we said for most of the first month of the season, guys like him leave your program and you don't replace him with anybody. Your defense isn't looking good, and he certainly would have helped this team a lot. But you leave and you think that you're getting the better of it. And dude, this is another thing. And we're not talking about it right now because we're so high on Florida's big win. We just ended Ole Miss's season.
Literally ended
Ole Miss was having playoff implications. All they had to do was beat us and beat Mississippi State.
They got an ambulance driving by to get Princely Umami. But yeah, man, it's funny. I got a bunch of Nashville friends. As you know, I had Tennessee fans texting me thank you after the game.
Oh.
But
that's big for them too.
But Dylan, to continue on your Princely point a little bit and to make the conversation a little bigger outside of just him, like to have Princely Umami leave last year and have Trevor Etienne transfer last year, two of your better players last season, two of your best players last season, and then both go to schools that you're going to play against, both go to schools that have been in the conversation for the college football playoff all year, and both go to schools that at the beginning of the season, only 3 to 4 weeks in, everybody was thinking that these two guys are going to get the last laugh and absolutely murder Florida. Yeah. And Princely Umami-Ellen's going to come in here in the swamp and get 2-3 sacks and be celebrating and tweeting after the game and all kinds of stuff. And Trevor Etienne with Georgia, I know Georgia won, but it wasn't like Georgia rolled Florida at the time. And fast forwarding to this game, like, it just shows that Florida is not a program that's going to be pushed around anymore. And that is so huge for the future. This is not a program that is lying down. This is not a program that's just content with being average or losing or whatever way you want to spin it. We've talked about this a million times, Dylan. Like with Billy Napier's job, you and I both would have fired him multiple times at this point.
I would have let him go after the A&M game. I mean, like 80% of the people with the same brain.
And there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of people that are watching us in the comments, or a lot of people just in general in Gator Nation that felt the same way. And look, I've kind of rode the fence all year a little bit, especially when they started playing better. Nobody that was saying that then is dumb for saying it, but it also means we can be happy to be wrong, right? I've never been so happy to be wrong. Like, thank God. And it doesn't mean that Florida's figured everything out. It doesn't mean they're going to go win the national championship next year. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I do think now that it's not insane to bring him back. It's not insane to be optimistic about next year. And it's not insane to think that the Gators don't need to blow it up and start all over. And it feels really good that they don't need to blow it up and start all over. You can actually, for once in a long time in this program, look at the progress that got made this year, look at the momentum they built this year, and you can see a path to being a really competitive team forward in terms of the talent they have, in terms of DJ Lagway just by himself, and in terms of all the positive momentum they've created. I feel so night and day better than I did a couple months ago.
So I got two things that just came across the ticker. Florida upsets Ole Miss 24-17 as a 14-point underdog. Per ESPN Stats and Info, that's the second largest upset win for the Gators in the last 45 seasons. I don't know what the other one was. Yeah, the line opened at like 10-11. And then yesterday, I saw late last night or this morning, line moved to 12.5. I think it was because Broderick Kearney wasn't playing. So
we joked about that.
That tweet was so funny when he told me about that. So I mean, the sharp money was going on Ole Miss, and deservedly so. I mean, Ole Miss, dude, coming into this game, dude, we're talking about an Ole Miss team that manhandled Georgia. And I know Georgia's not the same Georgia team as they were in 21 and 22, but they still handled Georgia. And they were coming off a bye. They were relatively healthy. They had a receiver that hadn't been playing for them the last couple weeks, and he came back. I forget his name. And you couldn't really tell.
Trey Harris.
Yeah, that was him. Also, Florida State got a big emotional win, 41-7. So they scored over 21 points for the first time.
Hang the banner, Florida State.
So here's the thing for next week. at what point are you satisfied with how many points for the margin of victory next Saturday? Over, under 63?
Over, under 125.
See, I think
I need belt to ass next week.
I mean, and
Belt to
let's
ass
just
next
ask
week.
everybody here. I mean, we almost got 700 people in here. Appreciate y'all popping in. We can't get your comments because we're on this we're on an iPhone. We're not on our laptops. We're, again, if you're just popping in, we're at where are we at? 16th and 22nd Street. Don't try and rob us. I ain't got nothing on me. I got $50, but we just walked from the stadium. We went to the game.
For better reference, we will understand. We're about 15 minutes from a 50-minute walk, like a 5-minute drive from the swamp.
We're by the old crib. I mean, if Florida doesn't win by 40 next week, like we're seeing Ham Newton, that's funny. Tyler saying 45 plus. I mean, yeah, I'm in the ballpark. I mean, this is a team that you haven't beaten since 2019, a team that was awful here. And we all agree that Florida State's team is a lot worse this year than they were in 2019 with Willie Taggart.
Yeah, I mean, this is the worst Florida State team I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah. Not even, and it's not even comparable, man. I mean, we're talking about a team that
they're 2-9
that barely got by Cal, and probably the only reason they beat Cal was because they had to get on a plane, and travel 3,000 miles.
Neutral site Cal wins that game,
probably, and then Charleston Southern team that you're obviously Charleston Southern probably doesn't have a dozen guys that can play in your for your team. So I'll get the win, obviously. But I'd love a beat down. I would love, in high school, you got to get a 35 at halftime to get a running clock. I like to see a 35, nothing. I like to see a donut, man. Get a 0 on the scoreboard if you can. The more I keep talking about the game, the more I'm thinking I'm just like something is weird's gonna happen. But I don't know what dream I'm trying to imagine Florida State having a chance to beat Florida next week.
I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to come out a lot of energy. So I wouldn't be shocked if maybe the first quarter was like sort of tight. But I think all it's going to take is Lagway to hit a couple of nice deep shots and Ball to run over a couple of people, and they're going to fold. That team has quit. That team's not just bad; they've quit, right? Because I mean, like, let's be realistic. Like, we all know Florida State's bad, but like, Florida State is not 2-9 bad talent wise. That team quit a long time ago. It's clear when you watch their games. Dylan, assuming the Gators take control and belt to ass Florida State a week from today.
We go to the Hot Dog Bowl in Tampa.
I'm thinking Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. I'd love that. But anyways,
they won.
The thing about the bowl game though, and Florida's already secured a bowl game with this win, so we can talk about it. This is a rare year because I know we kind of always talk about how bowl games don't really matter anymore. This is a rare year where you can be kind of excited about the bowl game because I think, with the exception of a couple token players, I mean, everybody that matters on this team would play in the bowl game, conceivably, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to have – I've seen Caleb Banks. I haven't done a deep dive into mock drafts. I've seen somebody say that he's projected high pick, so he might not play. But this team is just – it's unique, man. Like, I know it's cliche and not a lot of people care about this, and it's only being talked about now because they've won. But when you love who you're playing for and you love the coach that you're playing for, it's hard to kind of opt out of that game, man, especially with the season that they had and how they started and how they came back. And the reason it's going to be really hard for a lot of guys that say they love the program and love where the team has gone for them to sit out this game, I think. I mean, you'll probably still have a few, but, to have a mass number, I don't think that's going to happen.
And the only reason I bring that up is because whoever Florida ends up playing and whatever bowl game they end up in, they could potentially get another statement win. Now you blink and they have an 8-win season.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Man.
If I looked at
after the A&M game, and said we had 8 wins, there's no way.
I was about to say that, like, everybody that's been listening since we did the reaction show after the Miami game and the A&M game, we cannot express enough how much we appreciate you guys. And you guys, if you were there, you remember, like, if I had told any of you guys or told Dylan after the Texas A&M game especially, because that was number 2 of getting blown out twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah. With your defense looking like it should have been in FCS.
Right. If I had said in that podcast, Florida's got a real chance to win 8 games this year.
Yeah, there's no way.
Everybody in these comments would have looked at me like I had 2 heads. You would have been like, you're an idiot. You're insane. Look, again, we've said it. And Dylan and I both would have fired him multiple times this year. That's been the truth. A lot of people in the comments, that's the truth. We can all admit that, but it's beautiful to be wrong. It's beautiful to not have to start over. And look, I want to give Billy Napier's flowers himself personally as well. Like, coaches talk a lot, Dylan, about like how important it is for their programs to handle adversity and how important that is. And especially in today's world when
so easy to quit, hit
when
the portal.
When the first sound adversity, dudes hop in the portal, whatever. This is a recycled take. I'm not the first person to say this. But for Billy Napier to get all the guys on that team to keep their head down and keep working and keep getting better and keep developing and keep buying into what they're doing, and to sort of come out on the other side like they are now, to where they've actually been able to pull off wins, is truthfully one of the most impressive coaching things I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I can't think of. I'm just speaking in general for college football. I don't know who you can compare that to, like anybody.
I mean, it's a literal 180.
I can't. I mean, people didn't want Dabo, but Dabo didn't have this kind of pressure when he was like Clemson in 2010. Norvell, if he lost to Jacksonville State, but it wasn't this bad. Yeah, I can't think of.
Remember the offseason, Spurrier essentially said that Nate doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah.
It
was kind of true. I mean, he wasn't wrong in saying that. It wasn't like
and that's exactly what I mean.
He wasn't tripping when he said that comment.
Nobody was dumb for being all over his case back then. There were a lot of objectively like fireable offenses, and they figured it out. So like, for them to figure this out, for them to pull this 180 around, and because I mean, after I believe it was after the bye week, the general conversation, the general expectation for most people was, okay, no one expects him to beat Georgia. No one expects him to go to Texas and win. But in at least one of those games, you got to be competitive. Check. They were really competitive in Georgia. Lagway doesn't get hurt. Who knows how that game finishes. And then when you hit Ole Miss and LSU, try to get one. They're both at home. Try to get one. They got both, man.
No.
They got both.
It was funny before the season. We were like, Ole Miss could be the better. Ole Miss is the one to get, and then the season goes through, and then you're like, LSU's the one to get, and then you end up getting both. That's
crazy.
I think Florida started the upset Saturday. Penn State's top Minnesota 10-10. Arizona State's up on BYU 21-0. And Kansas is up 20-7 on Colorado.
That's crazy.
And the game's not even half yet. So, yeah, man, nice win. I mean, I saw somebody say in the comments, dude, we want Lane Kiffin. This doesn't change my opinion on Lane Kiffin. I mean, there is a reason why Ole Miss's best running back left them and played at Ohio State, because, and he said this, one of the best guys in your program, Quinshon Judkins, he said, I wanted to go play for a team that could win a national title. And there's a reason why Ole Miss, they've never had back-to-back 10-win seasons, or they haven't done it since the early 1960s. It's tough, and what he's been able to do there. I mean, he still doesn't change my mind what he's been able to do at Ole Miss, and on the type of coach he is. Just because you lose a game doesn't mean you're a bum. Like some people.
Yeah,
would think.
I agree. We live in a world where like tonight and the rest of next week, Lane Kiffin's going to be such an idiot and a doofus and a moron, and Billy Napier.
There was a lot of things he did too, where I was scratching my head. I'm like, dude. I mean, the amount of times that he went Wildcat was just like, all right. I mean, dude, you have a first round quarterback. For granted, for how good or bad he played today, that is gonna be a first round pick, probably top 10, because it's a terrible draft class behind Shador. And there are a lot of times where he took the ball out of his hands and you're putting a defensive line to get a direct snap. It's one, sometimes it's not your day, and sometimes the defense wins, and both of those things happen today.
The one really genuinely like head scratching play call from Lane Kiffin today was the one where they ran it with the big boy in that Wildcat formation, and they ran it to the side where Jackson Dart was lead blocking.
Yeah, that was the first drive.
That was a stupid call.
That was dumb, and I said that at the time, even though that's the thing. People base everything on a result, and like he went off tackle with that. If you got a dude that weighs 315 pounds, I'm sorry, you got to go straight to the middle, straight at the A gap, and if
you want a lead blocker, don't make it your starting quarterback.
Here's the thing too, man. That play probably set the tone for the game. Like, if they get there and they go down and score a touchdown, it's not saying Florida's can't be in it, but you get a stop like that, dude, a lot of momentum goes to your side. And then Florida, eventually they went on to get a touchdown. Was that right after? Or it wasn't long after Florida gets a touchdown. They go up 7-0. Those are things you need whenever you're overmatched. And I keep saying they're overmatched. I mean, they played with Ole Miss the whole time, even though on paper it looks like, if you look at the recruiting and look at the draft prospects, Ole Miss is clearly the better team on paper. But we said the same thing about LSU last week. So,
and that was what I was trying to say last week too. Like, I think a lot of people last week were looking at time of possession for LSU and looking at that as a reason to say, even though LSU lost, they dominated most of the game. And I say that isn't true, because if you have an explosive quarterback like DJ Lagway that's pushing the ball down the field and can get you 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards on any given play, and you can score lightning quick, then that changes the time of possession a little bit against your favor, but you're scoring points. Now, that leads me to an important point about today, though, because we talked about that this week, and you were saying that's not sustainable, though. You can't always have a 2-to-1 time, and I get that. That's fair. The reason, the negative side of the time of possession last week was Florida could not get off the field on third down on defense.
Didn't happen today. I think they converted 2 third downs, maybe 3, and they converted 2 fourth downs. They were 2 for 4 on fourth down, I think, and they were 3 for 10, 3 for 11. Let me check to be exact. But it was in that ballpark. So everything that they were bad at last week, they fixed this week. And, Billy ran the ball a lot more. On that touchdown drive, you hit the deep ball to DK. The rest of the drive, they ran the ball. I mean, the time possession was 30 minutes apiece for both teams. Yeah. They had 160 yards. It almost had a 160, but it didn't feel like Florida's 160. It felt like Florida's 160 was more controlling the ball, controlling tempo, doing more of what they wanted to do. Instead of Ole Miss, I feel like they were more reactive on offense to what Florida was doing.
And for the second week in a row, you're talking red zone offense was drastically in Florida's favor.
Yeah.
Florida finished their drives and Ole Miss didn't. This is the same thing that was I can't speak. This is the same thing that happened in the LSU game. LSU did not take advantage of their red zone opportunities. Florida they bent a lot in the LSU game, and they bent a lot today. But when even a little bit outside the red zone, when you're talking like the 30-yard line-ish, give or take, and in, Florida's defense started to get in that backfield, get a couple of sacks, knock a couple of balls down, and keep them out of the end zone. This is 2 weeks in a row that's been the case. Ole Miss, both of their touchdowns were from outside the red zone.
Yeah, one was like a 35, 40-yarder, and the other one was about the same.
They were both explosive pass plays.
Yeah.
And, you obviously don't want to have that, but the fact that Ole Miss, this is crazy to say, not one time today did Ole Miss get the ball, sustain a drive, go down the field, and punch it in the end zone. That never happened.
No.
They had 2 big passing plays that got them in the end zone, and that was it. That their day was done in terms of scoring touchdowns for the day. That is crazy to say for an offense that's that explosive, has that good of a quarterback, can do that much, has got Trey Harris back today. For Florida to be able to do this for a second straight week against what everyone considers one of the better offenses in the entire country.
They were a top 5 offense and top 5 defense.
I mean, that's unbelievably impressive.
And they were coming off a bye. So they had seen the Florida game. They had rested up and got healthy. And then they come out and they did what they did. That's very, very impressive.
We had a couple people commenting on the fit. I appreciate the compliments on the fit.
Yeah, dude.
Both things are LaFarve.
Check out this fit.
LaFarve.us is the fit for me. You can follow them on Instagram if you're unfamiliar. And Dylan's got the Billy Napier Hope hoodie.
I got the Obama 2008 presidential slogan on my
on Billy Napier. It's a Barstool shirt, but and people kept saying how awesome that hoodie was throughout the game. Dylan, another kind of quick like macro wrap up things here. this is the biggest win since when? Just straight up, like literally just straight up like seismic win for the program.
Trying to think back to Dan Mullen. What was his biggest win? He beat LSU. That was a big win.
LSU 2018, the pick six. Yeah.
Well, he had another big game at home where they won. The Auburn game was big in 19. But if the two games in 19 that they lost to LSU in 19.
In Georgia. But they had the Auburn win in 19.
Yeah, I'm.
The Auburn win in 19 was the most electric I've ever seen this.
Yeah, that was.
LSU 2018 felt like a big program statement win.
None of those games were.
To me, it's probably that game. You guys in the comments, if I'm forgetting a game, forgive me. If they had figured out a way to beat Bama in 21, then what was that comment say? Denmark, I want to hear you say.
Know. Billy Napier's the man. My dog. Billy Napier brings the boom. I bet 50% of people don't even know what that is.
Rob, we can get to a couple of these comments.
No, we're probably not going to be ranked because everybody that's ranked like 23, 24, 25 are all 7, 3, 8, and 2.
Yeah, we were talking about on the drive back. We were talking about that a little bit. But if assuming that Florida again belts to ass Florida State next week, they could end the season ranked.
Yeah, Man, the Ole Miss game. Remember, it's funny with the last time Florida played Ole Miss here in the Swamp. I think it was. Man, that was a big win, but they didn't build anything off of it. Like, this was a big win last week, and then you built on it, and you beat a team. You ended their season, a team that everybody thought was definitely a top 10 team. Some thought top 5. Like, I thought they were a top 5 team in the bubble. I mean, there were 6 teams I thought coming into today that could have won a national title, and Ole Miss was part of that. And it didn't happen, and it's not going to happen. I mean, it's not crazy to say it's the biggest win that Florida's had for their program for what it means moving forward since the Urban days. Because, I mean, McElwain didn't have anything like this. Muschamp.
I think if
they were 12-1, but, dude, they didn't. The big game they had was Georgia. God, who did they beat against 2012? They beat LSU 14-6, but I'm trying to have I don't think it was like this, man. I mean, it just feels like everything for the future is just so big right now. Like, it feels like right now, if you had to guess, Florida is in the playoff bubble. I don't know what the playoff bubble is going to look like next year, but from everything what it looks like, granted, anything can change, but everybody coming back, from what it looks like. You have DJ Lagway, who's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country. You look like you're going to have a lot of high school guys commit to your team. Looks like you're going to hit the portal hard, which, by the way, for the people that don't know, the transfer portal window opens the day after the bowl games, and the playoff committee picks the playoff games. It comes out, opens on the 4th, I think it is, that Monday, and it closes the 28th. So you got the whole month, and you're going to know what your team is going to look like for next year. And, I mean, a lot of those guys I think that are going to commit are basing it off of what they've seen for the last 2 weeks and for what they're going to see for the next 3.
It's bad timing to make this statement based on the game that just took place, but Florida needs to do in the portal what Ole Miss did last year.
Yeah,
where Ole Miss just absolutely raided the portal, got dudes that can help them win ball games right now. And again, obviously that hasn't worked out so far, but I mean, they need. I think they need portal guys in both trenches. They're going to need a receiver, possibly 2, maybe just 1. It kind of depends on Trey Wilson's situation and what happens there. We'll kind of see with the receiver room. But I'd like to get another guy in here that's caught a lot of passes, like a Chim DK type of guy. How reliable has he been? It feels like every time they need a big play, Chim DK, or it's either Chim or Elijah Badger that are there to make the plays. And two portal guys you got this year that have played a lot of college football. So they're going to need to replace that production. Defensively, a lot of these young guys are going to be starters next year at DB, but I think they need some more depth there. I'd like to see another safety get added to the room.
Yeah, you got to have more talent. I mean, because you're playing the same schedule next year, so you're going to have Texas going to air it out. Ole Miss. I don't know if Lane Kiffin's going to stay or leave, but if he stays, obviously they're going to want to air it out. You have to have some DBs, but I mean, what Lane Kiffin did to get this team a hell of a lot better is they loaded up on the line of scrimmage. And for the ones I didn't see, which I'm sure most of you didn't, he went on with Dan Patrick last week, and he went on with Cal Hurd this week, and he was like, we based our team this year to beat Georgia. And when they got housed by Georgia last year, it was because they were not good at the lines of scrimmage. And then when they beat Georgia this year, it was because they dominated the lines of scrimmage. And they got quite a few guys from the portal, obviously Princely, Eamon Yellen being one of them from Florida. Florida's got to do that. And, as much, sexy talk you want to do with the quarterback and the receivers and everybody on the outside, you're not winning and you're not having sustained success in the SEC unless you have dominant lines of scrimmage.
And by the way, we talk all the time about how good DJ Lagway can be. Go ahead and get a couple more linemen in the portal, along with the solid players you got right now. Protect them well up front next year and watch what happens. It's going to be hell to pay for a lot of teams in the SEC if you give that guy a clean pocket consistently. You give this offseason, you let him get that hamstring completely healthy because he can move now. He's not Anthony Richardson running the ball, but he can move.
No.
And you let next year when he gets fully healthy, you give me a starting 5, left tackle to right tackle, of really good offensive linemen that I feel good about. They got some experience. You get Lagway's leg back and let him run well, and you let the read option become a factor, and you let him develop it. And in these games, he's doing it, which is really, really valuable. We haven't talked about how valuable the reps are he's getting right now in these huge games, DJ Lagway. As he starts
played in big games.
Man. I know, that's true.
Other than Samford.
But as he starts to get more and more of these reps and get a better feel for when he should push the ball down the field, for when he should just take the underneath route, just take the quick thing. That was one criticism we had for him early in the game. A couple times it felt like when he got sacked, it was because he didn't want to take the 5-yard profit because he's looking down the field. You can't always fault the guy for that because when he's that gifted to throw it down the field, you just got to live with some of that and let him take chances and push it. But time and place, get more of a feel, play more games, learn, just be a little bit better about that and kind of figure out how to do that a little bit better as the signal caller for the Gators. Like, you protect him well and let all those things play out. This offense is going to be explosive next year. You get Jaden Ball back to lead that backfield, running over people, making all kinds of plays again. Hayden Hanson's back at tight end. Maybe get another portal tight end with some speed. I don't know. We kind of talked about it. I don't know what happened with Arliss Boardingham. I saw him on the sideline. It's kind of weird.
The biggest thing with all these guys is how many of these guys, and it's going to happen to a couple of them, how many of these guys are going to get poached from the NIL? How many are, is Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, whoever going to write a blank check to where, Florida just can't match it? And, it's the reality of, what the college football that we live in now. So that's really that's probably the biggest concern you have for the next month. If the guys can stay and the guys can be enrolled in classes in January, you're feeling pretty good. So senior class, this is not the way you wanted to start the season, but a hell of a way to go out. 2 big wins, two of the best atmospheres you've had in a long time. And
recruits got to see it.
I mean, you saw it on that last interception. I don't know, was it the last interception or was it the interception that was called?
So Dijon Johnson had the pick, drops, and they reviewed it and called it incomplete. And then I couldn't tell who got the last pick.
I don't even know who it was.
Because we were far away. But they did it. So you're talking about running up to the recruits?
Oh, yeah.
They did it twice.
It was like
they did it. They got called back. They got another pick. Did it again.
I'm sure they showed it on TV. It was almost like the whole damn team. Wasn't just the 11 guys on the field.
Dude, I thought for an instant about when Mark Richt brought the whole team on the field in 2007.
Yeah.
In the Georgia game. It kind of felt like that. Granted, this game was over, so obviously different circumstance, and the players just kind of did it organically. But it was it was crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, you saw coaches like, get the hell off the sideline. Like, we still gotta run a play. But yeah, nice win. All right. We went about 45 minutes. We almost got 1,000 people, man. We are some influencers in a parking lot.
We say it every week. We've already said it, but everybody listening, everybody tuning in, we cannot stress how much we appreciate you guys. We love doing this show. We love reacting after the Gator games. We love coming to you guys live, especially after a huge win like this. It's way more fun when we get to celebrate like this and talk about good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for everybody coming in and celebrating the win. Thank you for everybody that's going to continue to watch, and we're going to continue to bring you great content and great shows. So, yeah, man, go Gators, and let's belt to ass Florida State next week.
Yeah, we'll talk to y'all sometime Tuesday. Peace.